This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by nope.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the nope and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We are thrilled to be with you.
Yeah!
Yeah! I hope that wasn't too loud and
we're out of our booyah face.
We're never out of booyah. Also, I say booyah and yeehaw on a regular basis. So, yeehaw! Add a little cowboy emoji.
Got it.
Too bad there wasn't a booyah emoji. I wonder what one that could be.
Send us what you think the booyah emoji should
yes,
be.
please comment what you think the booyah emoji should be. Okay, anyways, our question this week is from a listener named Kylie, and she says, the weather is starting to get nicer and I want to increase my running volume. Typically, when I do this, I start to get IT band pain. I'm wondering what stretches I can do to help prevent this.
Sounds like Kylie's from the Northeast.
Yeah, exactly. It's May. The weather's getting nicer.
The sun's out and you can consider going out and walking and running more because it's not snowing and blasting wind in your face. So, Kylie, Northeaster, one of us.
One of us. Or maybe she's Canadian.
Maybe Canadian. Yeah. But in any case, I want to dive into this a bit because the question was, and this is like one of the most common questions that we get from any athlete that has running in their sport, but it happens to be more with distance runners. But we also get this with the tactical athlete population because of high mileage of rucking and running that's involved with that. But the question always is, what stretches can I do to prevent this? Mm-hmm. And I think it's this interpretation of like, one, let's talk about stretching and the efficacy of stretching and can it actually prevent anything? And then two, are you actually asking for stretches or are you more just asking for what advice do you have or exercises can I do to prevent this, right? Because those are kind of two different questions because to the answer of what stretches can I do to prevent this, the answer is none because stretching does not prevent injury. It is a common misbelief that has now been debunked multiple times. Like stretching will not prevent injury. You do need to have certain mobilities for certain sports, but the way to develop that mobility is by moving through that range of motion with using some load. Because when you're using load and you're doing strength training, you're going to get strengthening and lengthening. And that's what tissues need in order to be able to prevent injuries, right? So stretching itself does not prevent injuries. Can it decrease a little bit of discomfort or soreness after a workout? Yes. Can it improve short-term range of motion or flexibility? Yes. But both of those are from neural mechanisms, not from the tissue property changing. The IT band is a very, very dense tissue that runs along the side of your hip. So from the top of your hip down to your knee, actually from the pelvis down, it is a thick tendon. It connects this muscle called the tensor fasciae latae, the TFL. So everyone, like the IT band gets all this credit and we forget that like, hey, there's a small muscle that this band actually goes to and down and connects. So it's on the lateral part of the leg. And let's just start with that of like, if you have IT band pain, it has to be specifically on the outer part of your knee. If it's anywhere else, it is not IT band pain, it's patellofemoral pain. We have to figure out what's going on there. So it has to be specifically on the lateral portion of the knee. The common thought used to be that the injury was caused from a tight IT band. And there's a test used called the Ober's test that is still used. It's a test that I still have had to teach to students. I don't teach that class anymore, but I've had to teach them that to test a tight IT band, you use this test called the Ober's test, O-B-E-R, not B-E-A-R. So Ober's test. You lie on the side, you let the leg drop off the table, and you see how far it can go. If it doesn't go to a certain distance, it means that you have a tight IT band. Well, research done by Willett et al. In 2016 showed that during that test, the IT band actually isn't moved whatsoever. That if a test is positive, it's more due to tight, deep external rotators in the hip or the joint capsule, but not the IT band. So the stretch that was, or the test that was used to show that the IT band's tight doesn't actually mobilize the IT band whatsoever.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. It's a scam. It was one of these things that it made sense from a positioning standpoint, but when
Mm.
you actually tested that tendon, it did not move whatsoever.
Mm.
So there's a study showing that that test that we use doesn't actually stretch it. The reason that's important is because the stretches that were made for the IT band are based off of the test position of that. So the stretches that are available for the IT band are not actually stretching the IT band.
Mm.
So there's a point there. The second point is the point that we made very beginning is that stretching doesn't prevent injury. Like we
Mhm.
just we got to hit that, and we're gonna have to hit that for the next like 20 years of stretching does not
Yeah.
prevent injury.
Well, I think that that comes from the rub a little dirt on it population.
Mm,
They were taught to rub a little dirt on it. They were taught, I'm talking about our parents. Like
yeah,
they were taught stretching is the only thing you do. Like they didn't do dynamic mobility before a basketball game or a
right.
football game. They were out there stretching, trying to touch their toes and they couldn't. And like no, that's
Yeah,
not accurate. But because they're from that population, now
right,
our generation that may not be educated in the way that we are, they're just listening to what they've always been told.
right,
And I think that, sorry to go off, but I think that the reason people ask, hey, what stretch can I do for fill in the blank, is because subconsciously, they want to show some knowledge that, like, hey, I know that stretching is a thing
right.
that could help, but it really isn't. But I think that they want to like sound
Yeah,
smarter.
like hey, I'm speaking your language.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
yeah,
which is like
we're entering in. We're a
respectful, but
team.
like
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and to that point too, like that was the fitness testing back in the day, not the Ober's test, but
Yeah.
like the sit and reach and the toe touch, like that was part of
Oh.
the fitness testing in school, and I think it might still be, although like researchers are calling for static stretching to be like xed out
Mm.
of fitness, but that's a thing we won't get into
Yeah.
in this episode. So we know that you are not able to stretch the IT band, and that the test that was postulated to do that doesn't do that,
Mm.
which means the stretches based off of that don't actually stretch the IT band.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question is, well, can the IT band actually be stretched at all with any type of movement? And there's a study in which they used a pro section of a cadaver of the IT band, so removed from the human body, and they took this tissue and they just applied as much force as they could to see can we actually stretch this when it's not anchored to the human body, and it moved very 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 small millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
Like without technology, I don't know if it would have been actually recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So now when we look at it anchored into the human body, there's this other conception that it's just this like thick, dense tissue that is on the outside of all these different muscle groups. It has deep attachments to the femur as it goes down to the knee.
Mm.
So in the human body, there's even less likelihood that you can apply a stretch to this tissue. So stretching, no. And then I just want to make one last point on this of like to really drill it home. This research was done in 2005, which 20 years ago, this
Mm-hmm.
research was done, and we're still fighting against this like tight IT band movement. There are surgeries that cut the IT band, try to lengthen it to help people with chronic IT band pain.
Mm-hmm.
When we now know that one, it doesn't stretch, and then two, it's not the causative factor. How do we know that? This research study done, and then other ones were done after this, but this was in 2005. It was Michelle Devon, and I think it was at the University of Kentucky, or sorry, Connecticut. But they looked at their distance runners and they tested their IT band with the Ober's test to see if this was tight. And they found that none of them tested positive on that test. No one tested positive. The number one injury they had in that season was IT band pain.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole theory is thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if this is the thing that's supposed to be lengthening it, and now we know that you can't actually lengthen it with a stretch. But if that was the case, then all of these individuals should not have gotten IT band pain if they had appropriate quote unquote length of the IT band, right? So there's other factors. There's other reasons that IT band pain comes
Mm-hmm.
on, and that's what we're going to talk about
Yeah, it would be a disservice to Kylie if we were to answer her question by simply saying none.
Right,
And
right,
so we will actually provide the answer of what you can do instead.
100%. It comes down to load management.
Mm,
What is your spike in volume? I think the question posed, the weather's starting to get nicer. I want to get back into running. What's that first week of mileage look like? Like if you like, are you coming from like winter hibernation into running? Have you been training through the winter, developing more strength? Like what does that first week of mileage look like? And then what does the next week look like? And the third and the fourth week? Like what are these load management principles that you're using in your program? Like a lot of like 5K runners, their training is going out and running a 5K as many times as they can, right? Like I haven't ran all winter, but now I'm going to go run this 5K. Like no, like you haven't ran in a while. It's a lot of force that goes through the legs when you're running. Like start easier. Like do some intervals or go half a mile. How'd you respond? You did well. Okay, let's go up to a mile. Like we have to build that out, which is going to be dependent on where your mileage is currently at, what you want to build up to, and how much time you have
hmm
to do that. The other part with this too is like you can get this area stronger to be able to absorb more of the force, right? Because the side T-band, it's really cool structure. It's a tendon, but it also can act as a ligament because it attaches into the knee capsule, where like most tendons will attach just to like a bony prominence. It does have that, but it also has branches that go out and attach to the joint capsule. And as we were saying earlier, it has branches that go deep into the femur. It's a really interesting structure. But why do we have this dense fibrous connective tissue in the leg? Force absorption and creation, right? It's similar to the Achilles, this big, fat, juicy tendon on the back of the heel. Like that is meant to store energy and release it while doing these type of activities in which there's leg impact. And this big old thick band on the side of the leg is no different. So you can train it to make sure that it is doing that and has built the tissue capabilities for that by getting stronger. Like overall, just get really good leg strength
hmm
all across the leg. Like you're not going to go wrong with getting strong. It's classic statement strength and conditioning, and it's here to stay.
hmm
Like get strong, get your adductors, your quads, your hamstrings, and your lateral hip musculature strong. After getting it strong, well, let's get it a little bit able to make explosive efforts in jumping, and then after that, let's make sure it's bouncy in the form of plyometric elasticity, um, improving elasticity in that structure. So if you've done that through the winter, then going into running, like we can be a little bit more aggressive with it. But again, this injury is the most common in distance runners. They've probably been doing too much of the same thing for too long, or they had too much of an increase in workload. You know, what was your running mileage last week? Well, 18 miles. What was it this week? 30 miles. When did you start to feel it? That week that I did the 30 miles. 18 miles to 30 miles a week is a
Yeah.
big jump in running load. And then it gets into also like the next factor in that load management is not necessarily like the surface that you're running on, right? Because there's a debate of like treadmill versus ground versus trail running. And there's actually not much evidence on the differences in those surfaces. It kind of becomes like athlete preference at that point. Maybe that'll be shown more as research is done, but it's still, again, relatively new. But what does it look like as far as running uphill versus downhills versus flat?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're running downhill, like someone that has IT band pain, their symptoms are commonly going downstairs or running downhill. So how do we prevent that? Get really strong with that type of eccentric loaded movement, but also like turn it around, run uphill. Because when you're running uphill, what's happening is you're using more of your posterior chain, taking some force away from the IT band, and you're building more of the glutes, hamstrings, calf in the push off phase. So running uphill can help to build more tolerance, or sorry, not more tolerance, more force in that area to help equalize your leg forces when you're running. Once you have IT band pain, if it does come on, switching to uphills can keep you running and building mileage while the IT band symptoms calm down. But to prevent it, like we want to just look and say, like, what is your running volume? What is the intensity that you're going at? Have you built up to withstand those forces? And then are you getting an equal dosage of uphill and downhill and flat running?
Mm-hmm. Would someone like Kylie's coming out of hibernation, right? But someone who, say, lives in the South or they just run throughout the winter, if they're experiencing IT band pain at any time of year, it's still kind of those same questions,
It's
correct? It's still load management. It's still
yeah,
asking like what's changed in your program. And I know for me as a distance runner in high school, not so much anymore, but when I ran cross country, we were just running. There was no strength training, there was no jumping, there was maybe one day of kind of speed work
right,
throughout the week, but like it was just, hey, go run. Whether
right,
it's 3 miles, whether it's 5 miles or 8 miles, like just go run today, every
right.
day of the week, except for the day that we were competing, which then
Yeah.
we were on in the race, you know. So, that's a small town, high school. But my coach was technically a national champion
Yeah,
in
yeah,
cross country. So like there is that. However, like are you doing the same thing? Are you
mm,
just going out and running,
right.
but not doing all these other things that Doc Dylan is explaining?
Yeah, and where we start first, like let's take an athlete that is West Coast or in the South, that has like, hey, weather's not really a factor, which they would say like it does get cold in the winter, and I have to wear sleeves when I run,
Cold to
and
them.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, your cold's a lot different than the Northeast cold of getting slapped in the face with snowflakes, but they have hurricanes and other stuff, so every area's got their thing.
If you can run and your lungs aren't on fire because of how cold it is outside, it is not cold.
Yeah.
Like if you step outside and you breathe and you feel like the life is being sucked out of you because it's that cold, like that is cold. If
Yeah.
you're anywhere and that's not happening, it's not cold. I'm sorry.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But we'd ask those same questions like, okay, how long have you been running? Can you show me what your running programming has looked like? Has there been any type of taper throughout this, right?
Mhm.
Like, have you been on this steady incline for 6 months without any decrease in volume, right? So like for us with like the tactical athletes, like getting them ready for school to become a special operator, like they got to build up a lot of mileage, and they have a certain time frame in which they need to do that for. And so we have to look at that and go, okay, when are we going to taper it so that they're not just ground and pounding linearly like through time. Like we have to up and then take the volume down a little bit for a week and then bring it back up and then bring the
Mhm.
volume down and then bring it back up and then have that volume down. So like we want to see these intentional tapers that have
Mhm.
sometimes life allows you to have those tapers in it. Like you get sick or it's a hard training week, so you don't get those mileages in. But if you don't have that happening, and like you're like that, just like you have to have intentional tapers. Like you
Mhm.
can't keep going and increasing at the same clip over time. Like you got to have these little fluctuations in it to
Mhm.
keep you healthy.
Mhm.
So Kylie, I appreciate the question. Not necessarily like a challenge. We just want to give you the best info
Yeah.
that we can, and that info is like, do not concern yourself about stretching. Like that is again for if you have some soreness, like muscle soreness afterwards, okay, you can do it to help decrease some of those symptoms. But for injury prevention, stretching is really not worth, it's not worth anybody's time
No.
to stretch for injury prevention. When you
Mhm.
want to prevent an injury, it is all about load management, being conditioned to the stimulus, making sure you have the tissue capacity to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Which also like I'll throw in there like foam rolling your IT band, not going to prevent an injury. Scraping your IT band, not going to prevent an injury. What do? They can modulate symptoms once you already have pain. But why did you have pain in the first place? Because you either weren't prepared, or you spiked too much too soon, or you've been doing too much of the same thing for too long.
Mhm.
And once we ask those questions, it's very easy to look at the program and go, ah, yep, I see what you're talking about.
Mhm. So let's talk about something that's new. That's like a new movement.
Mm.
Swinging a mallet.
Swinging a mallet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a new movement,
A
but
new movement for us.
for us, yeah.
So my this is a great segue into my home story. But we are currently doing some outdoor construction at the
Mhm.
house. We are pulling up our deck. We're going to be getting a new deck, which is very exciting, but we're a little rough around the edges country people, and we're not gonna pay someone to come rip up a deck when we can rip it up ourselves. And so, we train on a regular basis to be athletes. We train like athletes, we lift, we sprint, we jump, we do all the things, but we don't necessarily, I mean, and we deadlift, but like we don't necessarily rip up decks on a regular basis. And the other day, as we were ripping up the deck, my hope story specifically is that we were using like a mallet and a hammer and what's the other thing?
Pry bar.
A pry bar to get the different wood pieces up. And I was smashing the thing with the mallet to try and get it up and snap in half. I literally broke the mallet in half. The wood part snapped in half, and I thought it was hilarious. Now we're down a mallet, which is unfortunate because the deck's not done. But it was this cool moment of like, man, I must have been putting like a lot of like force into that, which was cool. But then also just the amount of deadlifts that you're doing,
Oh gosh, yeah.
not necessarily picking up the wood to carry it to like the wood pile, but when you're cutting like the top and then you're trying to pull it out of where the nails are, like you're literally like deadlifting to try and get it
Yeah.
out of the stringer across. And so it's just been such a fun little project, but I wanted to share about me snapping the mallet in half because I think it's hilarious.
I'll add in country enough to take down a deck, not country enough to build it back up.
Correct. But we have resources. We have friends.
Hmm.
I mean, my brother-in-law is currently building his entire house
Yeah.
by himself with my sister helping, but really just carrying. Like he's doing the electric, the plumbing, everything like by himself. So like we got people in our corner
Yeah, 100%.
to do that part.
And shout out to Jocko Enterprise, one of my childhood best friends with a contracting company in
Yes.
the area. You need contracting work, Jocko Enterprises.
Hmm.
That's it.
Get her
Get,
done.
get it done. Uh, yeah, it's been a fun project.
Hmm.
But so on to my hope story. Uh, I'll put the segue as a moment then which I wanted to break a mallet,
Oh.
but didn't have a mallet to break
Hmm.
and decided to respond instead of react.
I'm proud of you.
Fair?
Yeah.
Fair. So that's part of our message at Hope Not Nope is the ability to be able to choose how to respond to a situation versus reacting to it. So on one of the previous episodes, I shared a story of doing jump training to a box and older men coming over to talk and that part of inspiring each other and impacting each other. So that same day at the gym,
Yeah.
we're also working on pro agility drills, just working on change of direction, getting in and out of position, working on footwork. And it was fun. And it was really cool because there's a guy next to us that was training speed stuff and he got talking to us afterwards. And he had a alumni track event in which he was like doing a 4x100 relay and he's like, yeah, I'm getting back to like training. What are you guys training for? Like life,
Yeah.
like just want to be fast and jump and
Nephew's
nothing's
competition in the summer.
competition, just want to keep training through life. And he's like, yeah. So anyway, we got talking,
Want to
but
dunk.
want to dunk. But so during the pro agility, um, I'll say gym etiquette, right? Like if someone's sprinting, you probably don't want to walk in the pathway that they're sprinting. You kind of want to look around and see like, should I pass the turf or not? And just like, I don't know if people just aren't taught that, if they just have main character syndrome, whatever the case may be. But Brandon's doing a pro agility, and this guy with headphones comes over and walks right. It is a like cone in the middle, 5 yards away 10 yards to the next one. It's not a large distance on
Mm-mm.
a 40-yard cutout of turf. There's a lot of areas that you can go to. And this guy walks right through when Brandy is turning and cutting and getting ready to sprint back, and then places his mat like where Brandy's going to be running to in
In
the
the middle of
middle
it
of the
by
rep.
the cone.
So Brandy turned and she saw it and she like peeled up, which was great because like athlete safety, I was getting ready to yell, just like watch out so that he didn't get toppled over and Brandy didn't run into
You
him
should have tackled me.
knee to face. And this athlete that was there like had no idea or just like wasn't paying attention. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like who knows? But it was very disrespectful. It was terrible gym etiquette. I was so annoyed.
But I got the moves.
But you got the moves. You peeled up, cut, got to the
Yeah.
outside. So I was just like, I was so irritated because it's not about the rep.
Yeah.
Like yes, we want to get good reps in, but like we're not more important than you. You're not more important than us. Our workout's not more important than your workout. Your workout's not more important than our workout. We're all in this together,
Hmm.
right? But there's a point where it's like one, safety, and then two, just like being in this together means that like we're looking out for each other and
Hmm.
not just randomly cutting each other off and laying your stuff down where that person is like working explosively. So I was just irritated with
Hmm.
that situation. And internally, I'm like I said, if I had a mail, would want to break it. But I was like, no, you know what? It's like it's not worth it.
Hmm.
Like we'll move the cones further back and we'll finish the drill there and then we'll move on to the next thing. And so we did that, finished it out, and it was the same day. I'm waiting at the front, and after I had the conversation with the older gentleman about jumping, a younger guy came up to me. I say younger, we're probably the same age,
Hmm.
but he comes over to me and he's like walking out, and has headphones in, and he like turns and starts walking towards me, and I'm like, man, do I know this guy? Have we played basketball together? Like, where do I know him from? Didn't know him. He just came over to say, took his headphones out, and he just goes, man, I saw what happened. I was running on the treadmill and that guy came and like just cut your girl off. That was crazy. Like I can't believe somebody would do that. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, I couldn't either, but like, yeah, it happened. And he's like, sometimes it's better just to like not say anything at all and just kind of move on. And it was one of these moments that I was just like, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that.
Mm.
Because the other part of it was like that same athlete previously that cut off Brandy also left his mat out, like never took care of the mat. And that irritates the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Like, take care of your equipment. Like, wipe it down, put it away so that the next person coming in gets to have a good experience. Like, now you're just being selfish and ruining it for the next person
Hmm.
coming in. And that just drives me bonkers. But like this stranger again coming up and just saying, like, hey, I witnessed that. That was wild, but you did the right thing and like not making a scene about it and just moving on and doing the next thing and use explicits and other words that I won't use on this podcast, but it was just really just like needed that. So what I say to that is that like one, like respond versus react.
Hmm.
It's hard to do that all the time, but just know that it's better than reacting to that situation. Two, like athlete safety is important. So like if that is happening and your athlete's running and that the athlete doesn't see, like you as the coach have to intervene and
Hmm.
either like stop the athlete or yell to that person like quickly, like move,
Yeah.
just to like protect the athlete. So if you have to quickly react to protect the athlete, that is an appropriate time to
Hmm.
do so. But then three, if you're the innocent bystander that witnesses that and you see that, like you can really encourage somebody by just going up to them and saying like, "Hey, I saw that. That was inappropriate. You're valid to
Hmm.
have, to be irritated about that, but you did the right thing and
Yeah.
just moving on from it." Like, gosh, that quick talk, like it changed the rest of my day.
Hmm.
Like I was working on like letting it go, and then that quick conversation like
Hmm.
let me just get it out.
Yeah.
And so
That's beautiful.
yeah.
And I want to add, like, going to a public gym, there's going to be situations where that happens.
Yeah.
And for us, like, this is not the first time that it's happened. It's happened like multiple, multiple, multiple times. And so I think there was just a little bit like building over the past few months of like being at a gym and having that happen like probably like once a week.
Hmm.
But this was probably the most unsafe time because it was in the like quite literally in the middle of a rep versus like we're about to go and someone cuts us off. Like that happens all the time, but like I was full sprinting.
Yeah.
If I didn't have awareness, like I was getting laid out or that like I was gonna lay that guy out. It was turning into a football drill type of situation. Um, but just having that little bit of that validation of I really feel like it's like a gift from God of God being like, hey, I see you
Hmm.
and it's valid to feel that way, and I'm going to give you a person right now so that you know that you are seen.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. Very, very much so. And it's just like humility check. And I feel like most of our listeners are on that side of it
Hmm.
versus like the other side of just Jim Broing it, sniffing C4,
Yeah.
headphones in, blacked out. but they have the humility of like, yeah, I'm here to work out, I'm here to get good reps in, I'm here to better myself, but like I'm not going to come in here with an ego that like, oh, I'm like what I'm doing is more important than them, so I get to have this space. Like it's just
It's not
yeah,
necessary.
it exists. It's out there, but just you don't have to succumb to that. Like stay on the hope side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope not nope.
Hope not nope. Yes. Well, thank you for listening, and Kylie, we hope that you can start looking at running and be excited about it. That you don't have to, be fearful of having IT band every time that you go to run when the weather's nice. Just really look at your volume, look at your progressions, and make sure that they make sense from load management principles. That's key. That is key. But thank you for listening. Have a great week, and remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.